Welcome everyone to the 60-minute APEX extension for EBS. Before we get going here, just a few little housekeeping details. We will be presenting here for about 40-45 minutes, and afterwards we're going to be opening things up for questions. And you've got two channels for asking questions. We have a Q&A area in this WebEx meeting center, so you can type your questions in there anytime during the presentation. There's two of us here, so we'll try to answer the typed stuff as we go along, and if not, we'll raise those at the end when we're doing the Q&A session. There's also a raise hand functionality, so if you click that at the end of the session, we will try to get to your questions and open up your mics one at a time. So that'll be happening at the end of the presentation. And we're not going to be hard-nosed about stopping right at the top of the hour at 12. We'll hang around here as long as there's people asking questions. Okay, so what are we doing today? This is going to be a demonstration of how you can hook up Oracle Application Express to EBS. Sylvain is going to do a hands-on demo of that right before your very eyes. And before we do that, just a little shameless plug here about our company, Insum Solutions. We are a company that specializes in Oracle Application Express. We've been doing this since 2004. We've got a lot of expertise here in the area. We've got on staff, we have a number of authors and co-authors of the APEX books. We also have Oracle ACEs and ACE directors and ACE associates here as well. We offer comprehensive consulting services, training, architecture, analysis, and all that kind of, full stack stuff. We are located our head office is in Canada, in Montreal, Quebec. We also have an office down in Vermont in the USA, and we have remote employees scattered throughout the states in Virginia, Texas, Utah, Arizona. And we have a lot of fun here. Our core values are respect, teamwork, integrity, innovation, quality, and of course fun. And I'm looking over here at my friend Sylvain. He's grinning ear to ear, so I think we can introduce him now. Sylvain will be doing the demonstration today. He's got a lot of experience with EBS and APEX. He is our EBS APEX practice director here, leading a team that hooks EBS and APEX together. And he's been doing EBS for a long time, through multiple versions and whatnot, and quite a few of the modules that are in EBS. And he's been doing APEX since about 2007, so lots of experience here. And without any further ado here, I'm going to turn things over to Sylvain, who will be doing the demonstration.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And what I really want to do today is show you in as much detail as we can in this 45 minutes how you can create this application with eBusiness Suite. And I'm going to have a couple of slides, but I'm going to go very quickly on it just to give you a context of what we're dealing with. And I'm trying to spend as much time as possible showing you the details of how you create this APEX application connected into the EBS environment. So this is our content. We're going to give you this overview, a step description at a very high level. We're going to give you this live application creation. So we're going to do it live. So as things are done live, maybe we'll I hope I'm not going to miss any steps because I have my little cheat sheet with me. But we're going to show you also like a finished application at the end, but that will give you a very good idea of what needs to be done. And it's really quick. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You can quickly create an application that works really well. And then we're going to conclude with a couple of notes towards the end. So let's get going and give you a little overview of APEX development in the EBS environment. So let's talk about different use cases that we can talk about here. Obviously, dashboards and reports. Those are probably the most popular types of use case you can have. Dashboards are really popular, even in the native EBS environment. You have the EBS extension for Endeca. Those are really good BI module or functionality that allows you to see your business in a very different view, in a dashboard view. And reports obviously are, that's the most common thing. But here with APEX, reports are dynamic, and reports are also interactive in the sense of user personalization. Also interfaces either through a backend, like time cards, invoices, suppliers, POs, you name it, or also interfaces that are kind of a human interface with EBS, and that's what we're going to show you today. That's more like a screen that populates the information for your interface. And then mobile application, again, all in APEX. You don't need to learn 2 or 3 different type of framework. APEX allows you to have a jQuery theme that you can apply to your application so that when it runs on a mobile application, it looks like a native app. Also, because of ORDS, which is the listener listening to the request for APEX, you have access to becoming a web service provider and expose your APIs through REST web services. And that allows you to access your corporate application or cloud application like a PayPal or anything else that you can think of. Very quick overview of your existing environment. Obviously, you have a 3-tier environment starting with your web browser. The middle tier made of Oracle WebLogic. If you're on 12.2, if you're on 12.1, that would be Oracle OHS. And obviously your database on your eBusiness Suite database, that's just sitting there. So what we're saying here is that the APEX engine, which is basically sitting on the Oracle eBusiness Suite database, is coming right in there. There's no, it's all supported. So that's the first thing that I really want to say. It's all supported to put the APEX engine onto the Oracle eBusiness Suite database. And as a recommended architecture, you have a different or a separate application server onto which Oracle WebLogic works or execute, and the Oracle REST Data Services Java component. Instead of Oracle WebLogic, you can always use a Glassfish server or Apache Tomcat. It's really up to you and up to your organization and your preferences as a network architect and EBS architect, how you want to deploy that. So this is really flexible in that regards. And I highly recommend for anyone that wants to start thinking about deploying and installing APEX into an EBS environment to read that white paper that was published a couple of months ago by both groups, the EBS group and the APEX group, about how to create extensions with APEX for EBS. For the DBA and the more technical people in the group, how this all ends up happening in the database is APEX creates its own little schema there, APEX 05000, where all the PLSQL, the tables that are used to run APEX are located. Whoops, wrong way. And then next to it, you have your XX schema. So XX schema, you already have that, like 99.9% of organization have customization of some sort. So once again, this is really flexible. It all depends what are your preference in that regard. Your APEX workspace can attach to one or multiple schema. Typically, you would have one default schema. So if you have one XX schema that holds all your custom objects for all the modules, or you have one per module, it's all up to you. Very flexible in that regard. And then just like any customization or extension that you do with EBS, this is where you would put your tables and your sequences. And in the app schema, you would put obviously all your procedures and functions and packages and views, just like you would do for any other type of extension. and APEX is very friendly with all this environment. And the other thing too, if I may go back, is this allows for a very, very secure environment, as you're not giving APEX and your developer all the possible APIs and procedures and whatnot. You just grant whatever you want to create those extensions with APEX, which you should do, I guess, for any other type of extension. Steps description to create our application. First of all, you create your application from starter application. This is the best way to do this because, as I'll show you, you can put default values in different areas. You don't have to rethink about it every time. You just copy from that starter application and then you build from there. You define a partner in the SSO engine for this application. Now, this is something that might be optional. Probably 99% of the time you will want to do this. What this will do is, even though you don't have an OAM or any other type of single sign-on in your organization, we can have a mechanism that allows for any type of application or system to connect to APEX without having to re-enter your credential. And that's quite important for your user experience. Typically, APEX wants you to authenticate in some way. So if you read the white paper, as I was mentioning earlier, what they would say is install OAM because Oracle wants to sell their product, obviously. Otherwise, you have to re-enter your credential a second time. And that's not really what we want to do. So this SSO engine that we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes will allow you to have a seamless integration between EBS and your APEX application. And even more than that, not only EBS, but any type of systems. It could be your GD Edwards, it can be homegrown, it can be anything, as long as it can call a URL. So we'll see that in a few minutes. Set up your EBS function to call APEX. So that's your function security as usual with the menu from your menu structure and custom setup that you set up there. And finally, finalize all the feature of the application. This is all the steps we're going to show you today. I'm sorry if I speak very fast, but I really want to show you a lot of things. We're going to come back to this single sign-on in a few minutes. Now, let's jump to the demo. So I might have to flip around a little bit here because I have my little cheat sheet here that I want to make sure I have handy. So let me squeeze that a little bit here so I still have it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create this application for APEX, starting with a starter application. So you can see I have a lot of different applications here, and here's my little starter application. So the idea here is to create, or our business case in this case is create a simple application to enter invoices. My organization has decided that I don't want to send all these pieces of paper to my accounts payable department. People around the organization can enter their own invoices, and that will be submitted through the invoice interface, and payable will have to process them and make the payment. So that's the use case here for this application. So here, again, my starter application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this new application, copying an existing application. So that's really handy to do that. So I'm going to be copying from this starter application. Now I'm going to have to switch back to my little cheat sheet here. I can try to squeeze my window a little bit so we can see a bit more. Here we go. Not so pretty, but this is our little demo, so we're not going to be too concerned about that. So I'm going to copy it to, oh, missed a little letter here, my AP001 invoice demo. Now, this is just a convention that I created myself. AP001, a lot of organizations are giving an extension name to extension they do, so that might be something you do in your own organization. So let's do that. I'm going to give it an application number here. That's standard for APEX. So let me see here how I can go to my next screen here. And that's going to create the application. So I'm copying all the information from my previous starter application. So I got a lot of things that have been created. I have a home page, a login page, and this auto login page, which will be used by my single sign-on. Here you go. I don't know why that was so hard to say. So let's have a look at the different properties that we want to validate. So here in my application properties, I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to make sure that my application name is right. So here I made a little typo in my cheat sheet, so it's a good thing that I know what I'm doing. I'm going to change the application alias AP001. So again, that's just the name that I gave it. And I'm going to look at substitution string. So once again, here is just to help you out, not repeating the same thing over and over. So here I'm going to change this one. As you can see, my starter application had a change application short name or some other type of label that tells me that I need to do something. So once again, here is just my own view or my own idea of what substitution string should be used, an EBS application name that I can replicate anywhere. And if I ever want to use this application as a mobile application, I just define it as a SQL AP type of module application. Other things that I want to check, this initialization from the security tab. And this is really important because this is going to put you in the EBS context. Whenever you do a submit in an EBS, in the APEX page, it calls the PLSQL engine. So it's never a set session that you have in your hand. It's always a new session. So you have to put yourself in the EBS context all the time. So what we do here, and maybe I should have told you also that, you know, this webinar is a little bit like a cooking show. Like I have a couple of things that I've already pre-cooked, and one of these things is this integration between the EBS and APEX application through this single sign-on. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to show you that. Maybe in a few minutes I'll show you some behind the scene, but really what it is I create this common package here to get all sorts of different standard values. In this case, this is the APEX language, sorry, the EBS language from ICX languages profile option. And then I have other things like the date mask. So I'm going to go and grab all these type of information. So whenever I create a session by doing a submit page, I'll be in the EBS context all the time. And obviously, I have to take care of the global initialization. Is my apps initialized right here? So just a few things here that, you know, I don't have to worry about. I need them all the time. Other things I want to show you, maybe I just need a little apply change here because I remember my substitution string, I had to change them. I'm going to go to my share components, and as you can see, I just want to validate a few things. One of these things is the authentication. And authentication, for those who know APEX a little bit, this is the standard authentication scheme from APEX. I don't have to change anything except when I click on the logout link, which usually would get me out of the APEX application. Here, I just want to go back to the navigation of EBS. So what I've changed here is whenever I click on that logout, or I'm going to change it to home actually for a label, this is where it's going to go. So again, it's just a URL. It goes back to my home page, and it seems for the user that I'm going back to the navigation when in fact it's a redirect. Other things that I want to look at, well, this talking about the navigation bar list. So if I go here, navigation bar list is over here, and this is the different link that will show you, that will be shown on the top of an APEX application. So I already changed this label from logout to home. So it means a little bit more to the users, and as you can see here, I have a substitution string or a variable that I'm using, which is the logout URL that we just changed. What this is going to do, whenever I click home, goes back to my navigation in EBS. Very, very this is very good for the user because it doesn't know that it's an APEX application. It just uses it just like it would be in EBS. Other things too, and this is becoming maybe a little just a nice to have at that point, is this user interface attribute, if I remember right. Yes, exactly. So you can put a logo to be nice, to be good looking, or just a text, and this is what I have here. So remember my substitution string, EBS application name, I'm using it to show that it's the call AP001 and it's the simple invoice application. What are the other things that I want to show you here? Oh, this is quite important too. My application needs to have one public page so it can be called by this single sign-on engine. So once again, because I use my my starter application, I don't really have to worry about, but I really want to show you, since we're in that demo, that when the application starts, it goes and gets the security group, the login ID, the session ID, and so on and so forth from that single sign-on initial values of user ID, responsibility ID, and application ID. So with this, you can draw a lot of different information in terms of default operating unit, different profile options. So all sorts of information that are pretty static and don't really change. I can put that there so that for the life of the APEX application, I'm pretty sure they won't change. So I'm setting myself again for that part in the EBS context, and I'm make sure that I'm all okay to run my applications. All right, so what we're gonna do here is create from this starter application, which we can't really do anything. We only have a login page and this auto login public page. So we're gonna create a master detail region or page to show my invoices that pertains to my user. Whenever I'm going to log on, I'm going to see all the invoices that pertains to me, and I'll be able to submit new invoices also. So this part is a little bit boring, if I can say that, because there are a lot of steps, and we're just choosing what we want. But once we go through it, you'll see that we're going to have a nice result. So I'm going to say create a new page, and this master detail form wizard helps me out with here. And once again, you can create or select different schemas that are available. Here, I'm going to be a bit lazy. I'm going to go right into the AP schema and get the interface table for the other part. So what I'm going to try to do here is create my master form, or the header of my page. So the master information for the master detail form. I'm not going to use all this. I'm going to go to a very minimum of the number of fields that I want for that specific case. Of course, later on you can add all sorts of information. So let's say I'm going to take these couple of fields, and then I'm going to need a vendor site ID, obviously. I'm going to need an invoice amount and the currency code. And then I'm going to make sure I have the last update date and updated by, so I can show that into my application, creation date. Oh, what else do I have? Probably a status, a source, and a group. So these are all obviously related to AP, and prior to start this application, I've made sure that I knew which one I had to have my interface to work. But here, all I have to do is select a couple more, and I think there's one more from a master detail point of view, and here they are. So this wizard will create all the fields for me in a page. So that's really good. It's going to really help me out. Now I need to select the lines of that invoice that will go through the interface. So bear with me as I'm going through this selection of fields. Here we go. So on my cheat sheet here, I'm going to look at what I need. So I need my invoice ID, obviously, my line ID, my line number, my line type. For those who are AP would know exactly what we're looking at here. Item description, how about that? And the quantity invoice. And unit price, yeah, that would be interesting. And finally, we have a distribution code concatenated. Here we go. So I think I'm good with these fields for now. And obviously, as I said, this is just a demo. You can add all the fields, and you can add these fields later on as well. So here, what it asks us is, what are the primary keys for each of these master and detail? So the invoice ID obviously is for the master part, and the detail part, we're going to select the line ID. Next is going to ask us how are they linked. They are linked by the invoice ID in both cases. And finally, or not finally, but next step, primary keys. So if I create new invoices, it tells me, oh, how are you going to identify those by trigger invoices. What I choose to do here is encapsulate the sequence or the value into a function. And the reason I want to do this is I like to keep things between APEX and EBS as decoupled as possible. So if later on it's not a sequence and it's another number coming from anywhere else, I don't have to reprogram or come back into APEX, or at least the least possible. So by packaging this into a function, I can modify my function, and any APEX application using this function will inherit the change. So I quite like to have some decoupling between my APEX and my EBS. So here I'm going to do the same for the invoice line. Like this. So that's going to provide me with the sequence whenever I create a new line. So here I am, my little cheat sheet. Do I want to master row navigation? I just don't, for this purpose, I don't want to navigate within the different invoices when I'm in the details, but sure, I want a master report at the beginning so I can see, maybe do a selection. It will be an interactive report at the end. I want to edit the details on the same page as the master, so that's fine. I'm satisfied with that. We're almost done with the different types of information that we have to put in. I need to put a nice title here, and the region name is basically the same. So I just want to be sure it's all right, especially in the part of detail. It's not really what I want. I don't want to have this title. It doesn't really change for the page detail because it's all on the same page, but for the region name, I like to have some nice region names that I want. And once again, this is just a wizard, and once the page is completed, you can always go back and modify the pages as you want. So I think I'm satisfied with that for now. I need to go next. I'm going to associate this navigation with home because I just want to make sure that I have this one. And once again, you can create different tabs or lists. It's all up to you. And here we are. We're ready to see what is the result of that page. So it creates a master and a detailed page. So we're not totally ready to see what's going on because obviously we're going to need to access this application from EBS. So there's a few things I want to change first. I know that the status of an invoice over here can be null actually when the status is entered. So I'm just going to change it so it's nice. And I believe also I want to add a where clause so only the invoices for this user are showing up. So here you can modify your SQL statement, and this is going to be an interactive report that will be presented to the user at the beginning of when you log in. So you can select the invoices and see the invoices that you have already done. So I think the navigation or the my validation went well, perfect. So I think I'm pretty happy with this now. So now the second step of our application to create is to define this application in the single sign-on and allowed a partner to call this application. So this single sign-on, and let me present it to you, is actually an APEX application. And this single sign-on engine is really, it's a second generation. And for those who have looked into on the internet for that type of solution, there's this fellow Rod West who came up with a very good idea and a very good concept of using HTTP cookies to link between EBS and APEX. And it works really well, but it has some limitation. For example, if you have one of the instance, either APEX or EBS on the cloud, that won't work. Or if you have different applications sitting on different network domains, that won't work also. So there's some limitation in that regard where this new engine really solves. And I think I might have actually a little graph for you just to explain what we're going to do here. So let me go back to PowerPoint. So this SSO single sign-on, what it's going to do is, so let's imagine this Oracle EBS wanted to call this invoice demo APEX application. So what it's going to do, it's going to ask the single sign-on repository, give me the information for, I'm a partner name, or really I'm the system calling EBS 1213, for example, and I want to call AP001. So this call can be done through either PLSQL, because that's just an API that's exposed by this SSO repository, or you can even expose it as a REST web service, because this SSO has an APEX application on top of it. The SSO repository says, yes, you are this partner, and yes, you are allowed to see AP001. So here's the URL you need to call. And as you can see, the first part is pretty standard. This is your URL. In our case, this is where our APEX engine is sitting, with an S question mark P of 999, which is a dispatch application, which we'll see in a second, in this big long token. So this is like a key that will be used by Oracle to redirect to the APEX application. But in order to secure this, what we have to do is Oracle calls this dispatch application when the URL is got from SSO. The dispatch application sends that key over to the repository. Make sure that you're the right person that is allowed to see this application or access this application. So it's going to check for a username. It's going to check for this application does it have a session state active, and all sorts of different validation. And if it's satisfied with that, it sends you back the actual URL that the dispatch needs to call. So as you can see, again, there's a decoupling between EBS and APEX that makes it very, very secure. So a hacker that will try to get into this final application wouldn't be able to do that. So now this dispatch application is using this 104 application, and what it does, based on the sets of application available in APEX, and it goes and redirects you to AP001. So really, this is what the SSO engine allows you to do without having to enter the credential again, because the credentials are based on this EBS call in with this token. So let's go back to our friend here, and what we're going to do, we'll actually register this partner with this new application AP001. So as you can see here, I have a finished version which I will be showing you, just like my cooking show when my pie is all cooked and ready to go. So this is the information that I will have to enter to get my new application in. So let's do this. I have a couple of default values that I have here. So EBS AP001. So this URL designator is basically a unique key made of EBS 1211, because we have a 1211 application here, EP001. And this is my webinar. demo app, and the application ID, I believe, was 302. I can't remember. Let's check in my cheat sheet. I think it is 302. So let's create this application. So I just created a link that EBS will be able to use to say, when I'm calling you like this is the URL that it's going to go to, and this is the application that it want me as a target application. So this is the ID for this application. So a single sign-on is taking care of all this. So let me save that again, make sure everything's all right. So I'm good with this. So I guess the next step is to say, let's do, so we're already done that, is to do our security function in EBS. So let's go there, and I'm going to use the functional administrator function, or responsibility, sorry, to create my new function. So let me just grab a new name here. Sorry for the back and forth with my cheat sheet. Maybe I can squeeze that window a little bit so I can see something. Here we go. So here's my name. So this is my new function. I will be calling at the end my APEX application. Here's my code, little description. Like this. It's and you need to type or use the type GSP function, because you need to call it through a GSP, which we can provide you with. This is something that we do for the community, and here it is. So what do we have to pay attention here in that call? This GSP is, like I said, a GSP we can provide you with. Parameters that you're going to pass are AP001, so that application that we just defined as EP001. What is the target page? So it's going to be that target page number 2, that master detail, the first page of the master detail, and application ID. So this is part of AP, so application ID 200. And I think I'm ready to go with that submit. So I created this invoice demo 01, and I'm going to add this actually to my menu. So my menu is called XXAB demo. And I'm going to update this to add it to, let's see, I have to go to my cheat sheet again. So here we go, prompt. I'm going to add this little prompt here. And my function name, like this. Let's make sure that it's been recorded okay. What did I do here? What did I do? Oh, maybe it was a code. Oh, what did I do? Oh, that's because one X is missing. There we go. And all I have to do is apply. And that should be good enough to show it in my responsibilities. So let's go check it out. I know it's in payable, I believe. So invoice demo right here. So now we're ready to see if my link is working well. Now remember, this is a live demonstration. There's no net underneath me, so let's hope for the best. And of course, it doesn't work. Well, let's see here. Because we don't know what's going to happen during a live demo, I have a finished version of my demo. All right, so hopefully this is going to work. Well, you know what? I'm going to give it a try again. Or maybe later. Maybe I have a little problem with my with some concurrent program not running in the back. So anyway, I'm very sorry that it didn't work. It should have worked. But the finished version of our application, which is exactly the same step, the only thing that I've done is I have made it pretty. So let's expand that window a little bit. And what I have made pretty is the top part here. The original application that we should have seen is this one here. So we should have seen this report and allowed me to edit and see basically something like that. Maybe not with all the bells and whistles and the nice colors and icons and everything else, but it was really, really close. What I added after the fact, because I can go and edit the definition of all these objects, is I added this nice little card report that shows me very quickly how many invoices processed or rejected I have in my list. And by the way, this is all the process, and I have 2 rejected right here. So for the user, these are elements of graphical user interface that are really, really nice to see. And we can go as far as when you click on this box, it filters out all the other records just to show you the process or the rejected and so on and so forth. I added a little selection here, so if I just want to see my fashion domestics, here you go. I only have fashion domestics available, and this is the easiest thing to do is to change your select statement, your where clause in that select statement that I showed you previously. So because it's things you can add, there's operating unit. I don't have anything in there, so I'm going to go back to vision operation. So for the user, this is all very intuitive and easy to use. Now, because we have to show that we're actually going to connect with eBusiness Suite, let's create an invoice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at those list of values. So by default, I have vision operation because that comes from my profile options. Standard, that's fine with me. I'm going to use my fashion domestics. Seems like I like to buy over there. And we're going to say web, May 10, and I have already done a few. So let's do 3. The invoice date, let's take today. So again, this is very, very, very like minimum. I don't need more than that to create an invoice. So what I've done here is I just entered the top part. And again, the navigation within Apex, you can mix and match whatever you want here. I let it bring it back to the to that first screen just to show you that it has been entered in here. But by saving that header record, I could have stayed in that page also. I need to at least have one line, so I'm going to add one line here, line type, and item description, like widgets maybe, one quantity invoice at 250, and once again, this is something that can be calculated automatically. A list of values for the account from the account aliases. I'm going to say miscellaneous, and then I can save all this, and this is my invoice ready to go. As you can see now, because I have an invoice line created, I have my little submit invoice button that showed up. So why don't we give it a try? I click submit invoice, it goes behind the scene. Now in this semi-finished application, I didn't have the time to put a very nice dialog box to show you that it's loading or processing or anything like that. Or the best way would have been to send this job in the background so it frees up the application for you for your users, and then just comes back or gives you a message when the application is done with the uploading of the invoice, which is the case right here, as we can see. So let's take note of this invoice number. I'm going to just click this down and go back home. Home brings me back to the navigation. Now I'm going to go to the invoice workbench. So you're going to see a couple of screens flicking. Some are in French as well. So this is the beauty of Oracle Forms. Here we go. And well, for some reason, Forms decided to not to like it so much during this presentation. So as you can see, Apex doesn't have these issues. So let's try it again. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more, no, it doesn't cooperate so much. Oh well. So what I can do for you, just to make sure that I'm not saying any lies, let's go to AP, into NP invoices all. Not a nice way to show this to you, but it's the way we have right now, because for some reason Forms decided that it didn't like us. And, oh, wrong way. Here we go. So as you can see, web May 1003 is there, and it's been entered with this invoice number. And if I want to go see lines, so invoice ID equals this. So you can see that here's my imported line, and the tax have been calculated. And if forms would have been nice enough for us, we would have seen that it has been validated and that everything is ready for processing of the different of the invoice for payments. Unfortunately, we don't have that luck today. So just to show you that very, very quickly within APEX, I can send my invoices over to EBS without an issue. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background information or inside information. When I hit that invoice, submit invoice button, this is what I provided. Whoops, this is the code that has been called. It calls apps initialize, as you know. This is pretty standard. And then it calls this is custom, a custom PLSQL, obviously. And like I was saying to you during my cooking show, I had some parts that were a little bit created ahead of time. So my load EBS was actually looking at the invoices that I want to submit and submit a request with the payable open interface import application call, which is this one here, and was just using the parameters that I sent it, and off it goes doing its little magic. Wait for the request here to continue on, and then just finishing it off, saying we're done with it. Is there any rejection, and so on and so forth, so it can send the info back to your application. One more thing I want to show you is about this integration between EBS and APEX. We have this XX APEX common package, and maybe what I can just show you quickly is all the different functions and procedures that we have created for you, wrapping up these APIs from EBS for APEX, so that whatever the version is, and upgrades are happening often, and if it changes, all we have to do is come and change these functions so that APEX is not impacted. For example, here there are very, very simple wrapper packages or functions. Responsibility short name SSO, so I just get the responsibility name. Very simple. But if in the future it changes in EBS, you try to limit the number of changes you'll do in all your APEX application so that your investment in this APEX is as secure as possible, and you only need to change it, or typically it would be in one area or a limited number of areas where you have to make the changes. So these common package used in APEX to put you in the EBS context, this is where you do it, and we provide that as a free package that you can download from our website. And the new single sign-on that is not what we have right now on the website. The second generation is not totally completed yet, but it will be in a very few weeks. Will be allowing you to put that single sign-on wherever you want. Doesn't matter if it's cloud, different network domains, different engines other than EBS, and you'll be able to see access the different application in APEX that you have created. So I know it was a very, very super fast demo, and that I missed probably a lot of information for you, but at least this gives you a little bit of details on how the technical aspect of it is done to be able to get EBS and APEX to run together into put APEX into the EBS context, so it's totally seamless for the user. So, as a conclusion, the advantages of APEX for EBS to build extension in EBS is this fast development life cycle. As you can see, I was fairly quick creating something that unfortunately at the end had a little glitch, but the application is actually very easy to create, and you can make it nice and put all the bell and whistle as you want. But what's important here, the key information here is that it's easy to create an application that will read the information from your EBS. It's definitely going to reuse your organization skill set especially from the development team. As you could see, I didn't have to do any HTML, CSS, Java, jQuery, etc., etc. It's all PLSQL. So as a basic application, I don't have to do and learn other framework and whatnot. I've been talking to a long-time friend who was telling me that he's been doing now OAF pages in 12.2, and it's a nightmare. Whenever they have to make one change, they have to repackage the classes into a jar file that needs to be deployed and bounce the server and what have you. You don't have that here. It's all declarative. You go back, change your SQL statement, press save, and off you go. It's available. It's right there. So your existing team knows exactly how that works for SQL and PLSQL. They need to know how the declarative part of APEX works, but as you could see by yourself, not that hard. And simplify patches and upgrades. If you do it well and you wrap or encapsulate your EBS functions into functions or procedures that are given to APEX, allows you to be very, very flexible in your patching and try to decouple as much as possible. And it's totally supported by Oracle. Like, you put APEX into the EBS database, you call it the support, yeah, that's no problem. Of course, your own customization might not support it, but the engine of APEX running into EBS is totally supported. So go see that that white paper again. And from a business point of view, you can see that adding or changing functionality can be done very, very, very quickly. And having a more graphical view, and if you have seen Patrick Cimolini session at Collaborate a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, it showed you how dashboards and interactive report can give you a lot of flexibility in terms of user reports. These are all advantages that the business really like. I think I'm done, and I'm going to pass it on over to Patrick to see if there was any questions from the Q&A, and if anybody wants to, after that, if anybody wants to ask a question verbally, I guess, you could raise your hand from the panel of WebEx, and then we'll be able to do that. So I'll pass it on to Patrick for the questions from the Q&A.
Well, thank you, Sylvain. That was a lot of fun. We do have a question in the Q&A window here that says, is Oracle going to charge for APEX or APEX in the near future? And that question comes up quite often, and the answer is probably no. We at Insum, we're not employees of Oracle, obviously, but we are in constant contact with people like Joel Coleman, and they emphatically say that it is a no-cost feature of the database that will remain a no-cost feature of the database. So no worries there in that regard. Do we need a separate web logic to implement APEX? The answer for that is sort of. If you don't want to use WebLogic, you can use Glassfish or Tomcat as your web server. Those are from Apache, and I believe that those are free. Is that correct, Sylvain?
Yeah, Glassfish is, oh, there's a little bit of echo, sorry there.
Let me mute.
Yeah. Glassfish is a open source engine, if you want. There's, I believe, an enterprise version as well. But at Insum, we've been using this open source version very successfully on most of our customers, and it can be used with a lot of confidence. you have to remember that on the application server, APEX doesn't do much. The bulk of the work is done inside the database, since the APEX engine will read all the metadata for your application, convert that into HTML pages. So Glassfish and ORDS will just use the result of that and pass it on over to your browser. So there's not, unless compared to EBS, the workload is done on the database and not on the app server per se. So Glassfish works really well for that purpose.
Yeah, thank you, Sylvain. Yeah, this webinar will be available on our website at insum.ca. If you go under the Learn tab on our homepage, you'll find quite a few other interesting topics as well. So that's going to be available, and I don't see any other questions coming in. Oh, here's another one. What is the configuration difference if EBS is hosted instead of on-premise? Sylvain, do you want to take that one on?
Yeah, actually, typically it shouldn't be any difference. Since APEX, and I think I've mentioned that before, APEX is actually a feature of the database. So the recommended architecture or installation is to put APEX right on the database. So you have a cloud service provider, or you have someone else taking care of your EBS instance. They should be able, and they shouldn't be afraid, to put APEX right on the EBS database. So wherever the EBS database is located, APEX should be located at that same spot. There are people or organizations that are asking if they can put APEX on a different server and have a database link to EBS. Technically, it's feasible, obviously, but if you know Oracle database link, they're not the most efficient feature, so it can work at the end. But really, your best benefit that you get out of APEX is to install it right onto the database. So wherever that database is, you put it in there, and you should be fine.
Yeah, we have another question here from Jamil. Question is, how easy is it to create dashboards? I can take that one on. Inside APEX, it is quite simple to create dashboards. APEX is a declarative environment so that you can walk through a wizard to create charts. And then if you want to link those to an interactive report, you can actually filter or pre-filter the interactive report using a special URL syntax, which is well documented. On our website, insum.ca, we do have a white paper and a presentation called, what was that, Sylvain? That was...
By the people.
Oh yeah, dashboards and reports for the people and by the people. And that goes through the steps where it shows you how to get started with creating dashboards and reports in APEX. Another question from Hugo. What about the other way around? If EBS is on-premise and we want to have APEX in the cloud, and can this be done, and what are the security implications? I will pass that on to Sylvain.
That is actually a very good question. I mean, the way to install these two components are pretty flexible, but once again, I would have a little discussion with you on what is the reason why you would put APEX on the cloud. Once again, what's important to understand is APEX is not a separate product. You could say that a parallel to this would be, What if I want to put my database on premise but SQL Plus on the cloud? To me, that there's not really a good case for doing that. The reason is Oracle supports to have APEX right there, right on the database of eBusiness Suite. Technically speaking, so that is covered, it can be done, obviously. You would have EBS on-site. You can have a little cloud database from whoever, Oracle or Amazon or what have you. That this database will only have APEX, and with that single sign-on engine that I briefly mentioned, the security of calling one and another would be secure, or would be assumed because of that specific token and the security of that token from EBS calling APEX. Now, obviously, you would have, from a network point of view, make sure that you are on HTTPS and that you have, which you can do from EBS and also from APEX, so you can secure the communication channel. And well, for other things, I'm not a very network guru, and I know a little bit of everything, and maybe not as much in detail as I would want to. But if you have like a VPN to tunnel that that information over to APEX, that's even better. Otherwise, it was just go through different HTTPS requests and whatnot, which, as you know, all know is quite secure. But again, I would debate that the purpose of doing that, since APEX and EBS are totally supported within the same instance. But again, technically speaking, it's feasible. You would need probably expose either a request of APIs or of SQL queries through web services. You would probably have to do that. So all these things are feasible for sure. It's just a question of what is the business case behind it, really, to me to get into that strategy and architecture.
Okay, yeah, we still have some questions coming in. Here's one from Paul. Is the solution EBS specific, i.e. 12.2.4? Any comments on REST 12.2.4 versus APEX ORDs and development simplicity? Again, Sylvain?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So let's start at the beginning of the first part of that question. So it's not the solution is not EBS specific. You probably mean by that EBS version specific. So it's actually both. So it's not version specific, and it's not application specific also. The APEX and this single sign-on engine could work on any type of application. It could be if you have PeopleSoft in your organization and need an extension done in APEX, or want to have an extension done with APEX, as long as PeopleSoft is able to call this SSO repository either through a PLSQL API, if that's feasible, or we can expose through a REST web service these calls, then PeopleSoft will receive this URL and call APEX. And as long as you know what to do within APEX to get the appropriate information, it can be any system, really. It can be a homegrown system even. More specifically on EBS, there's no difference for APEX and this SSO engine. It could be 12, it can be 12.1, 12.2, it can even be 11i for those who are still on 11i. There are slight differences. For example, between 11i and 12, 11i you have to create a function of type mod PLSQL, whereas in 12 it's a self-service web application GSP. So those are differences between the two. And from a technical point of view, if you're on 12.2, and these are the things we haven't mentioned, but on 12.2, you're not allowed to put anything else on the application server itself on the box, whereas on 12.1, you would be allowed to put a glassfish onto the physical server and then just use this one application server. So those are some differences, but really just from APEX and single sign-on, there's no differences. From REST, I think APEX allows you to be very, very simple in the way of implementing and exposing REST web services to the outside world. Once again, I know a little bit about 12.2. I don't know all the ins and outs, but to have the integrated SOA gateway installed, and on 12.2, I know you have to have, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have to have the SOA suite installed as well. These are all bundles and features that are really heavy, and sometimes they're not. You're not taking advantage of all that robustness and heaviness of these engines. Whereas with ORDS, if you want to expose any API, any SQL query, you can do it very easily within APEX using the ORDS features. So to me, once again, anything is possible, but if you install APEX right into the EBS database, have the appropriate grants from apps into APEX, APEX exposes a query, exposes an API. That makes it very, very simple for your organization to have any application out there accessing EBS through an APEX application, because APEX is right there, and it will talk directly to the PL/SQL engine into the SQL engine in the database. So to me, that's the most efficient way of doing this.
Thank you, Sylvain. Now we have another question here, and actually it looks quite interesting from Brian. The question is, can you run an APEX application against an active data guard instance? Set up everything on the primary EBS database, but use the standby ADG instance to support the APEX app for read performance. EBS ADG instance is read-only. Again, I'm going to defer to Sylvain for that one.
Well, that really is a question I didn't expect, and I don't really have an answer for that, because I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I have no knowledge of what those ADG instances are, and I really would have to have a conversation with you to know a little bit more about it, and see how feasible it is. So if you can exchange the need and send me an email, or we can have a conversation, we could probably meet somewhere in the middle, so we can figure out what this is all means for us. So I can give you what are the options there. The only thing I can say is, if whatever database setup you do, APEX should be able to follow that setup, because once again, APEX is a feature of the database. So if you go rack, if you go 12C with the multi-tenant, APEX allows you to run in all these type of environments. So I'm eager to see what this is all about, and trust me, I will definitely look into it as soon as this webinar is over. But please send me an email so we can touch base and discuss.
Okay, we have one more or another question here from Rit. Do you have experience using PeopleSoft with APEX? I can speak a little bit to that. Here in the office, we don't have any direct PeopleSoft experience here, but in principle, hooking up APEX as a bolt-on technology to any of the big ERP systems is quite doable. The trick there is to understand the API that the PeopleSoft or SAP exposes, and then you have to work with that API to get the communication up and running. We here are experts at the EBS side of it, And that free download that we offer with all of the code set up, you just simply have to, or maybe not simply, but what you would have to do is duplicate that type of code and make it work with the SAP or the PeopleSoft environment. The next question, how can we create master page report as interactive instead of classic? A master page report as interactive instead of classic. Basically, if you have an interactive report, you can actually easily flip that to a classic report just with one of the parameters on the report attributes. I hope I understood the question.
Or it's the other way around.
Or the other way around, yeah. Sylvain, you've got a, I'm going to...
Yeah, sure. So what that wizard was proposing and installing for you by default is, like you said, a classic report. So all you would have to do is take that SQL statement that resides in that classic report, create an interactive report in that page with that same SQL statement, make sure the links are pointing to that page number 3, which was the detail, and bring the row values accordingly, because interactive and classic are very, very similar. So basically, the only thing you would have to do is just manually create this interactive report and put the right link so that it connects to page 3, and that would be like a 10-minute job.
Thank you, Sylvain, for clarifying that part. Another question here is, do you have any experience using an APEX application with SAML-based authentication? And I'm not sure what SAML-based authentication is. The APEX authentication engine is actually very flexible. They have all of the standard single sign-on with Oracle and LDAP, and also too they allow the APEX authentication engine allows you to hook up a custom authentication. So if you have hooks into the SAML API, you can run PL SQL code that will interface to that, so that you can get your username and password into that. So that would be a custom job, and in principle you can hook APEX up to almost any authentication engine as long as it does expose some sort of API. And that is the bottom of the question list. And I see, boy.
We have a raised hand.
I'm just looking at the raised hands here. I don't see any. Whoops, here's one. Yogesh Kumar, can you, are you able to unmute yourself? No, I'm not. Sylvain, can you, do you have the keys to the kingdom there? Yogesh, maybe you could type something into the Q&A.
Hi.
Ah, yes, we can hear you.
I have a question. Whether this APEX can be accessed through a mobile application? Question number 1.
Yes.
My second question.
Oh, yes.
Is going to be.
Well, let's deal with the mobile first. APEX has a very rich mobile interface. You can, using the same development environment that you build desktop applications with, you can create jQuery applications declaratively, just like a desktop application. So mobile is already baked into the APEX development environment. Question 2.
We have seen the integration between Oracle eBusiness Suite and APEX. Do you have a similar kind of an integration with Fusion applications as well?
Again, Fusion applications would be the Java application stack. you'd have to look at the Fusion application and see what kind of API that it exposes. The Fusion application might have a PLA SQL API or a bunch of REST services exposed. You'd have to do some reading on that. And in general, when APEX is interfacing with cloud applications out in the wild world, part of the easy part is setting up a RESTful service inside APEX. The hard part sometimes is understanding the API that you're trying to use. Like, for example, if you want to get a list of books from Amazon, you have to go through the Amazon documentation just to see what the call parameters are. So if you're dealing with some sort of Fusion application, you'll have to get their RESTful service API documentation and go through that, or find out if they expose things through a PL SQL package. Does that help?
Yeah, it helps. Thanks a lot.
And to be to be honest, we haven't had a chance to work with an organization that has a Fusion application. It does. We work with EBS and more like the on-premise, but not cloud Fusion. All right. Okay.
No questions coming in, so I think we can move on here, and we're already 15 minutes over time. So thank you all for attending. Sylvain and I are very pleased that you all managed to stay to the end. Most of you are still here, so that indicates that you're kind of keen on this area. And we just want to emphasize too here before we go that the EBS to APEX integration code is available on our website, and that is a free download. So, and if you have any further questions, you can see that Sylvain's email is there, and he's usually prompt about getting back to you if you do have other questions. So on that note, thank you very much, and we hope to see you again in some future webinars or at some of the conferences, like Kscope is coming up. We would encourage you, if you do have the ability, to go and check in the OD Kscope. We'll all be there, and it's a wonderful conference for anybody who is interested in Oracle Application Express and a few other technologies like Hyperion and Essbase and weird and wonderful stuff like that. So Kscope is absolutely a wonderful place to be. Anything to add, Sylvain?
No, thank you very much for attending, everybody. And once again, feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. Visit our website, and we'll hopefully get in touch soon. Bye now.